Hi, Dan.
Hello. Give people just one more minute here for folks to get dialed in. We got a good group.
Yeah.
All right, Alan, it's 12:02. Should we get started?
Alan's on mute.
There we go. It was stubborn. Hate that. Good morning. Welcome everybody to the LAC meeting today. I just thought I would go through our attendees for Mary's sake, so she has everything down. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good, Alan. Good to see you.
Who we have here in our meeting today, Mike Trahey, a new representative from the community. Welcome. I also see Dan Buron from Goodwill, Demery Jones from Disability Network, April Messias from Leelanau County Senior Services, Susan Odgers, another community representative. Hello. Michelle Crum from Senior Center Network, Lana Payne from Commission on Aging, Amanda Molsky from Area Agency on Aging, and Mandy, another community representative. Welcome, everybody. So today we have a very specific agenda. It is our MDOT Vehicle Accessibility Plan review. In a minute, I'll have Kurt start off with the projected purchasing of bus assets, and Eric will also fill you in on current services, changes, and ongoing services that we have for BATA. All this to be said, that's our Vehicle Accessibility Plan. And MDOT wants us to present this to the community and to engaged agencies for your comment and your review. So anytime during the presentation, please raise your hand, speak up, and ask your questions or make a comment. Very welcome. Also today, we are recording the meeting for the first time. We will be placing the recording on our website, on the LAC page. So if anybody wants to follow up with what's going on at BATA, they can come and see that. Okay. Any questions, guys and girls? Excuse me. Okay, Kurt, take it away.
Very good. Thanks, Alan. Hello, everyone. I'm Kurt Braun. I'm the Facilities and Fleet Maintenance Manager here at BATA. And I will be running down our Vehicle Accessibility Plan, our annual review here, just trying to give everyone an idea of the fleet compromisation, or the fleet and how it's comprised, and what our future goals are. So, Eric, if you can go to the next slide. I think you're driving. Yep. This is a breakdown of our vehicle types right here, and I've provided some pictures in here so you can familiarize yourself with our terminology. Basically, we have some diesel vans, which are the little transit vans, 3 of those. We have cutaway buses, which are the second bus here. That's gas cutaway. We have 24 of those. small cutaways with propane, 25 of those. And then we move up to our medium duties, which are basically a 29-foot bus, a little bit longer, a few more seats in them. We have 14 of those in propane, and we've gotten rid of all of the diesel that we had last year out of those. They expired due to age. We have still some medium heavy diesels that are our longer transit style buses. And then we just have 5 of the school bus style buses that are primarily used on our bike and rides. And those are the only non-accessible buses in the fleet. So if you go to the next slide, this kind of has a breakdown of it. Is anybody else's window of people blocking the slide? There we go. Okay. So as you can see, 57% of the fleet as our 24-foot buses, basically, the cutaways. That's kind of our workhorse. They work best for servicing the routes that we have in order to have enough room to not only get accessibility provided for people with disabilities, but also having enough room for passengers of other types as well. And then it just kind of steps down for the sizes, the little bit bigger buses we don't have as much use for, but we do still need them in the fleet. And that's kind of the breakdown of it. And if you go to the next slide, we kind of talk about our fuel types. We've been on a goal to transition from gas and diesel as much as possible over to more greener initiative type fueling, and propane is where we decided to go for the availability of it and the function of it. We've taken great strides in the last few years. Right now we have 32% of our cutaways are propane and only have 26% of our fleet still as gas cutaways. And you can see the other percentages there. But essentially, if you go to the next slide, you can see that our goals by the end of this year would be 46% of our fleet actually being propane, only 32% diesel and, or excuse me, 22% diesel and 32% gas remaining. And that is all dependent upon whether or not they produce the vehicles that we have on order. We are currently waiting for vehicles that should have been delivered in 21, but because of the chip shortage in the world, they're not being built. So that's our goal. So it's good to have goals.
Hey, yes.
Yes.
Hey, Kurt,
Yes,
could you speak to any conversations that you or others have had about electric vehicles compared to propane, or is that in our future?
Yes, that's my next point would be that we are also looking at battery electric vehicles. Those are a little more challenging to get. They're extremely expensive. We will need grants to fund those buses. You're looking at $250,000 for one bus, so it's something that we're trying to partner with some other organizations for. I have submitted several grant requests for propane or electric buses. We have not been successful in those efforts yet, but we will continue down that pathway. As we build our new facility, we're also preparing for having charging stations available for when we ultimately will be successful in getting electric buses. And that actually helps you in the grant process, because if you've already got that infrastructure in place, then you're more easily or more likely to win that award. So that will be a good step that we can take forward here as we move to the new facility, which Kelly will speak to shortly, I believe. If you go to the, yes, thanks for that question, Alan. I appreciate that. The next slide, this was our goal. Again, still can't put a goal of electric buses in there because we first have to find a way to afford those. So, but as we go forward, we're trying to get more and more of the propane buses into the fleet. As you can see, with the planned orders that we have in, by the end of 25, we would be at 81% of our fleet being propane powered, which is a very good achievement. So that is based on the capital requests that we make every year. And how this works is that we have to go out 4 years in the future for MDOT and the FTA to request eligible buses based on either age of bus or miles on that bus. They become eligible for replacement. So we make those requests based on those conditions. And if you go to the next slide, you will see our current 5-year plan is, this is the delayed portion. This is what's already on order and is supposed to be coming in. These were the buses I referred to earlier. These should have been here by now, but those will be coming in time, maybe the end of this year or beginning of 23 before we see them though. And then the next slide will show us the capital plan. And this is what I just submitted in January. And we had 18 eligible buses requested this year. And so I requested 12 of the 24-foot cutaway buses, which is, as I said before, our workhorse for the fleet. And those will be propane buses. Also, 6 29-foot, those medium duty buses. We're requesting those in propane as well in 23. And then 24, we had 5 eligible buses. We're requesting those as all 24-footers. In 25, we had 6 eligible, and this is all based, the way I picked these numbers out is all of those numbers, the 6 eligible or 1 eligible or whatever it is. I have a plan written out that shows when we got our buses, how many miles are on them in their current state. And so I can kind of project out which buses will be retiring so I can replace them with like buses or new needs for buses if our needs change. So this is the 25, and I think that was the 26. 12 buses that year. And again, 24-footers, we're getting 4 of those, or requesting 4. 29-footers are requesting 8. And just because we request them doesn't mean that we're going to get them. That just means that is what MDOT and the FTA will base all of those needs from every agency that submits. And then when the money comes in, they will dole them out, those dollars out based on these requests to whose needs are the greatest. So,
hey, Kurt, so that's interesting. How, historically, and per your request for assets, how close are we to getting our requests, total, like you said, in 2026 for accessible 24s and 8 29s? What's the percentage that we usually get?
Well, I'd rather speak to what our goal would be because it's really quite random what we end up getting. And it's because you get shuffled by who has the most requests or the most need in their fleet. So their goal is the same as ours, but they never seem to quite reach it. We've been actually quite fortunate, and some of it's based on luck, some of it's based on planning. But if we can replace 10% of our fleet every year, that keeps our fleet as new as possible and keeps the buses from aging out and sitting here on our property. It really keeps us in good shape. So we've been pretty fortunate for that. Right now we have 86 buses, so that would be 8.5 buses per year. And it's been close to that historically, but sometimes they come out with a huge number of dollars. And what was that? I think it was 2010. They replaced 40% of our fleet, which is something I've been fighting against ever since, because the last thing we want is to have 40% of our fleet aged out and not have money to replace them. So that's kind of how that works. Does that help?
Thank you. Yes, very much. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I think that was the last slide of mine, wasn't it, Eric?
I have
Yep.
one question.
Yes.
Are you having any problems getting parts and stuff with the shortages that we're seeing? I know that I took my truck in for a repair and it took 3 weeks. It should have taken only 2 days. So just wondering if you're having the same kind of issues.
Yes, that is a very good question. And especially since without having those chips available for building new buses, we now have to make sure that the fleet we have stays functioning longer than we normally would have had it. So we're replacing motors in some of the older units that have started to fail, and those motors are taking months and months to get in. It used to be we could get a motor in about a month. Now I think we've waited up to 3 months for a motor. So, which doesn't really make sense when you think about it, because if they build vehicles all the time and all they're missing is the chips, you'd think they'd have the components, wouldn't you? And be selling those like hotcakes. But yeah, we do have a little bit of delay on stuff like that, but we've been pretty fortunate. My service coordinator really does a good job of kind of hounding people and getting parts. But we've kept everything running. And we do have some in the wings waiting for those motors, but we're keeping them moving through and ordering ahead for that reason. So yes, when we can, that is. So that's a good question.
It looks like Susan might have a question too. Susan, do you have your hand up?
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
So Kurt, a couple questions. The first one is, I know like many employers, BATA's having trouble with hiring. And I'm wondering how your department is doing in that area and if that has any bearing on our ability to get new equipment. And then my second question is the bus that is not accessible, the one that the bikers ride, will eventually be phased out. It seems a little odd that we're breaking the service into accessible and not. Is our goal 100% accessibility eventually, or is that never going to be the plan, or what do we think about making that bike and ride bus also accessible? Thank you.
Yeah, great question, Susan. We are trying to make that an accessible bus as well. The challenge comes in fitting bikes and people and a wheelchair tie down location and the lift and inside of a bus. And so we've looked at our very longest accessible buses, and we still may try to accommodate that in that fashion. However, once you are starting to trade seats for bikes and space for things, then all of a sudden your vehicle becomes less useful than it was to begin with. So what we always try to maintain, and we do maintain, is link service, which is accessible buses around those bike and ride routes, so that should there be a need, which has been extremely low need for service on those, accessibility on those routes, we are able to provide it within a very short period of time and stay compliant in that. So that is kind of the goal. I would love to have a accessible bus on there and a bus with air conditioning. That would be great too. But this is a tool that has just worked for us in order to get as many bikes as we could, because we get these bikers in big groups, and that's what we're trying to provide a service for. So that's just the platform that we came up with. And then as far as the shortage of staffing in my department, yes, we are shorthanded as well. I am down about 4 people in my department, and that is generally a department like I have 3 mechanics right now. Usually I would have 5. And then my maintenance group, I have 2 where I would normally have 4. That has not been a factor in us getting equipment, though. That does not fall into any way affecting that. However, we've been able to manage and maintain since we are short of drivers, and that has caused us, unfortunately, to have to reduce some of our service. That reduction in service has enabled the shop to keep up with the demand in the repairs. So that's just kind of how that has shaken out. Did that answer your questions, Susan?
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. And I just have a quick follow-up. You're going out to 2026, and I'm wondering, and maybe Kelly's going to get into this, but the forecasting, what other groups you're a part of? Do you have an idea what we need and what we're looking at, how that actually works? If that's part of not only BATA's strategic plan, but other roundtables that you're a part of, what our housing, what our population is going to look like, all those different factors. I don't know if you want to say.
Yeah, and I think I defer that to Kelly because I think she's going to talk about some of those things for the future. So,
okay, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, any other questions? Kurt, thank you very much for the overview. It was great.
You're absolutely welcome. Thanks, everyone, and we'll be leaving the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Eric, hi. I believe you would like to talk about, oh, wait, no, we're going to Kelly first. Yeah, Kelly, welcome.
Hi there. Hi, let me see if I can find my camera thing. It's nice to see everyone today. Thank you for taking the time to attend our annual Vehicle Accessibility Plan LAC meeting. We would be remiss if we did not include an update on our new headquarters project. However, I will tell you, I don't have much more of an update than I had a year ago. It's been a very lengthy, complex process getting through this PUD approval process with Garfield Township. And I read in the paper over the weekend an update of, I think it was Larry Mobby that is getting into some development efforts, and I just could relate heavily to the things that he was talking about in the article, which is that these developments, especially this project, it is a very large project. They take a lot of time to get through, and you really have to learn as you go where the challenges are and bringing them to fruition. So apparently it is not unusual for it to take 2 years to get through a PUD process, but it's been a little frustrating nonetheless. So I think that is in large part because we all know how badly this housing is needed. And why can't we all just get out of our own way to make it happen faster, right? But there are things that are legitimate concerns that the township has to be very careful of going forward so that they don't put themselves in libelous situations and have private developers pointing fingers at us. And so that is kind of slowing this process down. But ultimately, we are still persevering through the process, and we are nearing the end, I believe. We do have a tentative commitment for the final Planning Commission meeting to be reviewing this on February 9th, and then that passes over to the Township Board for their approval. And so Garfield Township will the Board of Trustees will be discussing this. I believe they are going to be discussing it as an introductory item on February 8th, and then they would post a public hearing to be held on March 8th, and then they would take their final action that evening after the public hearing. So just as a reminder, it is BATA's headquarters maintenance operations facility that replaces the Cass and South Airport facility. It also consolidates all of our storage from our Diamond Road facility, which is just a little south on Cass here, and some of our leased parking lots. So we will be moving to one campus. So there's some efficiencies to be had in doing that. All of the bus storage will be indoors. So that is better protection of BATA's primary assets. And it's a facility that is designed to flow for the size of organization that we are, which is just going to serve this organization much better from an operational perspective day to day. So that's the headquarters facility. Just north of there, we have a transfer station. We're calling it a transfer station. That's also what we call our Hall Street station. It's a little misleading because it is not a brick and mortar building like our Hall Street station, but more of a stop and go, just a landing place for the buses to come and people to transfer from one bus to another and to use an adjacent park and ride lot. So we're really hoping that this South Transfer Station will serve as a commuter hub for people living in the southern parts of Grand Traverse County. And as a lot of you know, there's a lot of residential areas to the south of the county, and that is just continuing to grow. So we really think that this has a high potential to bring people into downtown without their individual personal vehicles. So, and then of course to serve the 200 plus residential units that are included in the Traverse City Housing Commission portion of this project. Offering people to truly live there and have immediate access to public transportation and therefore not have to have a car or at least 2 cars per family. So, and then the sort of peripheral add-ons to the project are the daycare facility and then also a commercial building that we hope will be occupied by like a kind of grab and go cafe, coffee shop type of thing. But both of those are to be privately owned and operated. But they are included in our PUD plan. So, so that's really the update on the facility. Susan, to answer your question on the 5-year plan for the buses, that plan is really driven by MDOT's process for replacing our vehicles. We can adapt that in the future as needed. But the plan that Kurt shared today is really primarily based off of MDOT's processes. Are there any questions about the new facility or the project itself or any other questions? Susan?
Kelly, I'm wondering with what you described at the beginning, the typical process and how this fits and doesn't fit with getting it approved and built and all of the things that are required. Is there anything the LAC could do to help in any way? Are you looking for member testimony at meetings? Are you looking for letters? What, if anything, seem to be some of the holdups that the group could be a part of?
It's a great question, and I wish I could say that I think it would be helpful. However, I mean, if you know Garfield Township trustees, I think imparting your support of the project would not hurt. The challenge, one of the biggest challenges that we are not finding a way around, and I don't see them budging on this, but it basically comes down to the phasing of the project, and they really want to make sure that the housing gets built at the same time as the transit use. Transit's use of this property is not the use by right. It is zoned currently for agriculture, and the future land use is high density residential. So they're sensitive to anything that would look like BATA has just gone through this PUD process to try to use the land for something other than what it's intended for. And while, of course, we would never go through this painstaking process for that, I can see how, they are concerned about that. What we're getting into now is, well, what will be the kicker to allow BATA to go forward to build then? Because the housing does not have funding committed to their project yet. And so that can be a very lengthy process in and of itself. And meanwhile, we have a 3-year clock on our federal grant to build our facility. So trying to align the timelines of things in a way that will satisfy and assure Garfield Township that we do intend to build as close together as possible, but not jeopardize BATA's grant by holding us up too much is sort of the nut that we've been trying to crack for several months now. And we think that we're close with them, hopefully agreeing that when the housing commitment gets their funding commitment, that will be sufficient for BATA to proceed with building, because we still have a 14-month building process to go through once we can start going forward. So to be held up until the Housing Commission actually starts building would really jeopardize our grant timeline. So I'm hoping that the township will be A, supportive of the partnership, but B, supportive of accepting their financial commitment versus actually seeing their shovels in the ground.
And you have your hand up.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah. Dan?
Are there any other options other than getting that funding from the government funding for Tony? Is there other?
We are meeting right now. We're meeting with our legislators and talking with them about any potential specialized funding commitments that the state may be able to allocate to this project. And the other part of the problem that we're running into, the problems abound, as you can imagine. So many of the avenues that they want to funnel the funding, the state has a lot of money right now. And they want to solve these problems. They say they want to solve these problems of lack of housing and community-wide problems across the state. But then the avenues that they allocate them through, MISTA or MEDC, have such narrow application processes and boxes that have to be checked, and the way that they're awarding points to the projects preclude many of the projects in rural Michigan from being eligible. And we don't even really consider ourselves rural Michigan, right? I mean, this is Traverse City. I mean, we're barely rural anymore. And yet this project, being in Garfield Township, doesn't meet the MEDC requirements because Garfield Township doesn't have a designated downtown. And the MISTA requirements for walkability are not met. And, so it just is, we're getting really frustrated with the, out of one side of their mouths, they're saying, we want to help you do this. And then out of the actual practical side, when you try to operationalize it, it can't be done. And so we tried to convey that to our legislators as well as the directors of MEDC and MISTA at the policy conference a couple of weeks ago. And the director of MEDC has requested a follow-up meeting with us. So we feel like at least we have their ear on what some of these issues are that are preventing this and projects like this from actually coming to fruition. So we are exploring several different angles. I mean, Tony's going through the typical 9%
Right.
application process that's very competitive. But we're hoping that we can at least get like one building, you know, phase one of his project funded, maybe with a state budget designation. So
Right.
if you have any other ideas, we'd love to hear them.
I do actually. I will. I'll contact you.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Thank you, Kelly, very much.
I hope I have a different update next year.
We
Oh,
do
Alan?
too.
I had
Yes.
another question for Kelly,
Go
but
ahead.
it's not about this project.
Go ahead.
Anything is fine.
Oh, okay, great. So there was a letter to the editor, a forum piece in the Record Eagle this weekend about the MDOT plans for the Parkway. And I'm wondering how BATA is weighing in on that, if BATA gave testimony on that.
We have not given testimony, really. We have gotten an update from MDOT, but much like the forum was indicating, MDOT comes out when the plan is fully baked, right? So there really was not, we asked for some very simple improvements to be included, and basically we're told that those were not going to be included. And those included things like, can we get a left turn arrow on Union Street just to keep traffic moving? I mean, they were things that you would think could be included, but the MDOT has such a very highly prescribed process that we have not really been involved from any type of planning perspective.
Okay, so then that kind of, I don't know if everybody knows this and I just don't. Do we have, where are our lobbyists, our PR people, our, outside of the traditional marketing to let the public know this and see what we can do so that those things are known? I mean, if I might think it was April 1st today with some of the things you're talking about. I mean, it makes no sense. It's like, how can we have these developments and then having these other variables that are holding things? How can we have a major artery and not have your input into it? I mean, it's like, there really is a need for citizen oversight in everything these days. It's just gotten ridiculous.
Yeah, the processes are frustrating.
So do we have someone in-house that's what they do?
Our lobbyist is with the Michigan Public Transit Association, and we would take any desired issues to the MPTA, and then they have a legislative committee that decides statewide which items rise to the top from a legislative perspective. Many of those are chosen based on the things they think they can influence.
Susan, also, I'll just mention that Heather Bowden is our contact, our coordinator at MDOT. She is invited to attend every meeting. She was not available today. I will send her a note just to let her know that the meeting was recorded today, and she can take a look at that and perhaps answer any questions that she would like to. She can go through my desk or Kelly's. That'd be great.
Yeah, and to that point, I don't know, Heather, of course, is with the Office of Passenger Transportation, which is a different division of MDOT than what division works on the roads. The transportation division itself is separate.
That would be helpful. Kelly,
anything else for Kelly?
I also know that BATA used Elaine Wood for your strategic planning, And I'm wondering if there's anything that came out of that that you can share with the group, or if that's anywhere on the website and I just haven't seen it yet. Or
we didn't really go through a strategic planning process as much as kind of a board development process. And I don't know, have we talked with our LAC about our transit master planning effort yet? Okay.
No.
Is that on the agenda for today?
It was one of the topics that was going to come up. But if you want to roll with it now, go for it. Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to steal anyone's thunder.
No, you got it, Kelly.
Have it. Okay. So, going through, we really want to create a plan that is actionable and not just high level strategic planning. And so, we wanted to do a little bit of board development to strengthen the involvement of some of our board members and just build that into a more cohesive, committed team. And it was very successful. Elaine did a great job. Everyone felt really good about that effort and that it was time well spent. And we will be doing it at least every probably 18 months, I would say, going forward, just to keep the connection to kind of higher level initiatives present for the board members. So beyond that, and this was talked about a lot at the board retreat that day, we really want the plan for what does public transportation for meeting this community's needs over the next 5 to 10 years look like. And that really cannot be developed at the board level. That takes community input and stakeholder input, and is a much larger process. And so that circled us back to our transit master planning initiative that actually we had underway just before COVID surfaced, and that kind of paused the effort because we couldn't envision a way to get, well, there was just, I probably don't really need to explain why we paused the effort other than it was just, everything hit the fan in that March of 2020. And so we shelved our transit master planning effort because we wanted to get a lot of community engagement, and envisioning how to do that remotely was just more than our minds could envision at that time. Since then, we've all gotten really used to engaging in this remote way. And so now we are back on the plan of getting our transit master plan created, and that will involve community input, and very well could have some remote sessions like this, or maybe with any luck, we'll be back in person in the next few months. I'm not sure, but sometime over the next 6 months, that effort is going to be well underway, and we'll be looking at input from employers, residents, taxpayers, everyone and anyone that will take the time to provide us their input on what they want to see from the public transportation system over the next immediate 5 years, but some long range planning in there as well over the next 10 years too. So I think that will yield a much more tangible product than a typical just strategic planning process would. And so that was the direction that we decided to go.
Thanks for that, Kelly. One of the things I wanted to tell the group is that in the last week, I became the chair of the library board.
Oh, great.
So it's a big honor. I'm really excited. I just live and breathe the library.
Yeah.
Among other things, I'm really glad. And we have a great board, really great working board. So some of you know that the libraries had to hire security because of incidents at the library. So now whenever the library is open, we have security. And one of the things that comes up in some of our meetings that I wonder if I could ask it to Eric or Alan or Kurt or anybody, but for you, Kelly, has BATA seen an increase in any kind of behavioral issues folks tended to think, where is it that these incidents could be connected in addition to the library? And there was a question about whether BATA is seeing an increase. Thank you.
Eric, do you want to respond?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'll chime in for that. So an increase, I don't know if we've seen an increase. It's been.
I would add, just to interject a little bit, that I think we see a seasonal increase.
We always
every year. So it's hard to know if there's like a long running increase or if we're just in the seasonal impact.
You know, it has ebbed and flowed a little bit with COVID, you know, with people's, especially as many of you know, on public transit, we still are required, there's still a federal mask mandate to use masks on our buses, in our facilities. You know, I think COVID has put a strain on people's, you know, level of patience and acceptability in some things. So there has been that, but it ebbs and flows. And as Kelly mentioned, you know, wintertime things do tick up a little bit as, you know, more people are trying to stay on the bus longer, especially when it's cold out, or using bus shelters or facilities for, you know, more than just public transit needs and things like that. I don't think anything has been off the charts above and beyond what we normally see at these times of year, but yeah, it does come and go.
Eric, I'd have to agree with you on that. And Kelly, I think I didn't run the numbers, but I did look back just to see our general. I put it in a bucket called customer service, and for the LAC's information, I am also on the etiquette committee with Eric and 4 other people on BATA staff who review incidents and complaints. But I think the only increase I've seen is, of course, the mask mandates becoming an issue. But the level of seriousness and the number of incidents appears to be the same as last year and the year before.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kelly before we kind of move on to a few more items? Okay.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
So one of the things that and we've already kind of hit on this just a little bit, as far as what does BATA's current state look like, and how is everything impacting it? Like many organizations in our community, we are staffing is our number one challenge. It's always been, you know, in the top 5, maybe the top 3. As far as challenges as this organization, continuing to keep that pool of staff filled and things like that. But as many organizations have experienced, we're hurting for folks, especially on the driver's side. Kurt already kind of gave a high level on the mechanics side. Customer service area, we're looking for some folks, but drivers, we are at a low level of staff. And so we've had to match our service levels to the available staff that we have. And so that's a different service footprint than what we've had previously. We could probably hire anywhere to about 15 to 20 drivers today just to get us up to on normal staffing levels. So we're at about, I'd say about 70 to 75% of what our normal staff and service levels are currently at. So what does that look like from a BATA service footprint? Right now, all of our fixed route services, so our Bay Line and our City Loop and our Village Loop rides are only operating Monday through Friday right now. They run from 6 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. The majority of these changes that you see here took place right after Thanksgiving. November 29th, that first week of December timeframe, and they've been in this mode since then. So that's fixed routes, just Monday through Friday right now. To support the reduction in fixed route across the board, we've enhanced and made our link on demand. We've put more vehicles out on the link on demand. That's the on demand service that we have that operates in and around Traverse City. It has been doing fantastic. Lots of people like that door-to-door transportation and the ease of use of it. So we've increased the number of vehicles that are available on that to help offset some of the temporary service reductions. And then Village Link, which was always available Monday through Friday, is also available on the weekends now. So we've got Link buses available, making door-to-door connections in Leelanau County and greater Leelanau County and greater Grand Traverse County to kind of offset some of those unfortunate reductions as far as the loop service goes. So what does that look like as far as like a map goes? Right now, as far as Bay Line and City Loop, we've got the Bay Line kind of truncated in between Meyer and Tom's. It's not making its full extension to maintain the frequency and to keep the number of staff that we have on it. So it's still running about every 20 minutes. It's still free to ride. It's just hitting Meyer, turning around, heading to Tom's, and going back and forth. And then routes 1 and 2 are our top 2 city loop routes. Those are the ones that hit downtown and go to the mall and Walmart and back. And then the route 2, which is the route that goes down 8th Street by the library, through the Barlow, the Frenier corridor up to the Goodwill Inn, and then turns around and heads back. Our other 2 city loop services, routes 4 and 5, have been temporarily suspended just to not enough staff to drive those. And then the village loops, they're still running, but instead of every hour, they're about every 2 hours. Some have a little bit more frequency on them depending on use, but those are still making connections, but it's just Monday through Friday as far as the village loop support goes in that direction. So any questions on what our current service footprint looks like? So the question that I get asked a lot is, so when are services coming back? When will weekend service be back? When will there be half-hour frequency on the city loops again? All of that kind of stuff. And the shorter answer is I don't know. We've got multiple hiring practices going out, and what our plan is, and we're kind of working on the details, is as we get more staff in and we were able to meet the current need and then be able to add some additional services back in, we'll look at the high frequency, the high usage routes, the ones that need the support the most, like routes 1 and 2 and some of the crosstown connections. We're hoping by summer, maybe fall, we'll have more staff available and we'll be able to bring back some of this stuff. But it's got a big question mark around it. And then as Kelly mentioned with the transit master planning process, that process also is going to help us not only help determine what the needs of the community are, but match the resources that we have to those needs. We need to be mindful of what buses that we have and what people that we have, and how we can make that feed into what the growth looks like. Maybe Route 5 in its previous configuration might not come back the way that it was before if we need, if we don't have enough staff to kind of meet that, or if the need has changed a little bit.
Eric, Demery on the chat line said, how many hours a day are drivers allowed to drive?
I can answer that. So we are not governed by the DOT like truck drivers are. So it's not so much that there's a regulation around this, but what we strive for is to keep our drivers under 10 hours of actual driving, and 6 days per week or less. So it's kind of it's a BATA policy imposed of 10 hours a day, 60 hours a week, 6 days a week. Looks like Susan.
I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, Eric, one of the things I wanted to throw out to folks is I'm on your texting and your emails when you have a delay. I signed up for that for a long time ago. That's really helpful. And I started to keep track of the times that the buses can't do what they need to do because of road conditions. So then I started to call the road commission and the other officials in those communities and just say, this is how this all works. You have to do your part because the buses are slowed or they can't get out at all. And people are depending on that. And we really need to work together. And I've just kept calling. And I know it's a big issue and it takes more than me, but I think that it's important for these communities and these other folks to realize what that does to BATA. BATA does not want to be 30 minutes, anything beyond that, late for people, and they know they're waiting. Although one of the things I also want to tell the group is that I get lots of calls now that the shoveling at the bus stops is much better. It's really good this year. And also folks have been telling me and wondering, and I didn't have an answer to this, if all the shelters have heat in them now. Can you comment on that? But I just want people to know, you know, I have a really good relationship with the Traverse City street director, and I can call him about anything, including things related to BATA, and he really takes notice of that. So I just encourage people to do that as well.
Thank you, Susan, for being an advocate about that. And yeah, if our service alert system is a really good way to stay on top of any impacts of service or BATA news. We use that as a good mechanism. We've got close to 600 people signed up via text or email to receive notifications from that perspective. And luckily, you know, the knock on wood, the winter so far has been, you know, fairly mild, not too crazy. We haven't had that many winter weather service impacts this year so far, but we're not even through January yet. There's still a lot of winter to go. In regards to stop clearing, we do still have our Adopt a Stop program, which is a volunteer program that is coordinated here internally by a couple folks where either local businesses or organizations or even residents and individuals volunteer to keep a certain stop location clear throughout the winter. And we've also had a couple of our staff go above and beyond or help out keep some of those stops clear throughout the winter. But luckily, like we said, it's been fairly mild. The snowbanks haven't gotten too high this year, and we've been able to keep that ice buildup down at most of the stop locations. And then your question about heated shelters, are all of them heated yet? Not yet. So not to get too ahead of myself, we'll cover this in a little bit, but yes, we've got 3 shelters currently that are heated. The first one that we piloted last winter was over at the Grand Traverse Commons over by the Stella stop there in the power plant. And then just right before Christmas, we added 2 more. The Great Lakes Campus Haggerty Center stop now has a heater built into it, and the Front and Milliken stop at the Denos Museum NMC campus also has a heater built into it right now. You press a little button, heater kicks on for about 30 seconds and takes the chill off, and then you can press it again while you're waiting for the stop, or for the bus to arrive. And so we're trying to make it easier to use. What we're trying to do is connect more stops into the power grid versus just the solar lights. The solar lights do great when it's sunny and not covered in snow, but if we can connect our shelters into the power grid, it helps to keep them lit as long as we want and add features like the heated shelters and things like that moving forward. So yeah, not all of them yet, but we're starting. We've got 3 so far, and we're looking at the high usage and high impact shelters first.
Can I just add, I wanted to emphasize a point that you made a little ways back, Eric, about the outcome of the Transit Master Plan, because it just kind of speaks to some of my hopes and dreams for the outcome of the Transit Master Plan, which is that we will hopefully get a plan where we can provide coverage to our full service area, which is all of Grand Traverse and Leelanau counties, but in a way that takes less resources than we've grown accustomed to. And so that will likely mean change from the loops that are listed on there today, and the services in the configuration that we've known them to be over the last 15 years, because the staffing shortage issue is not going away anytime soon. And we have done some things to hopefully attract more staff. We've increased our pay rates. We've increased our hiring bonuses. We've got retention incentives in to boost retention of our existing employees. But the bottom line is, this is a global problem, and certainly hitting our entire nation and our state of Michigan. And at the policy conference a couple weeks ago, there was a person speaking to this issue, and he was saying basically, in the data that they have analyzed, Michigan needs a minimum of 216,000 workers to move to our state. They don't live here currently. And of course, that begs the next question, which is, well, then where would they live? Right. And so we have these big problems facing us that play out in the very, day-to-day operational challenges that we're experiencing, and so many of our other organizations, and I know we're all challenged by it. I'm very concerned that the problem is not going to be solved quickly. And so we need to find ways that maybe we interline our routes, and, it's every other loop or something. I don't know exactly what that looks like. But I'm hoping that going through our transit master plan process will yield some creative solutions. Driverless buses is an interesting one. Also a ways off, I believe. That I would like to hear more conversation, at least with our city and county officials, about preparing for driverless vehicles. There's a fair amount, a large amount of infrastructure that will have to be put in place before you can bring automated vehicles into our community and have them able to run. But I don't hear a lot about that yet. So I'd like to think that driverless buses are close, but I think those are a couple decades away, unfortunately.
And Kelly, I believe in my reading, driverless buses always have on-bus assistance from the transit authority, still requiring staff.
Yeah, hopefully not staff that also have to have a CDL, but they probably will. So the 216,000 people needing to move here was really eye-opening to me. And that was like a bare minimum number. I mean, he was really saying we need more like 500,000 new residents in working age population to move into Michigan. And other states are being very competitive, and they're facing the same thing, but they are being very competitive in their policies to try to attract people to move there. They are paying off college graduate student loan debts to move there and work there for a minimum of 5 years or 10 years. They're paying move-in bonuses. There are other states that are really actively trying to confront this problem, and I hope to see that Michigan starts doing some of that also.
Really good points. Just a couple other things real quick. We always provide an update on our fare structure. Not too much has changed since the last time we reported out on fare structure. The only thing that is different, since we did have some temporary service reductions, and we're relying more on our link services to help make some of those transportation connections. We did temporarily make our link on demand service $3 full fare one way and $1.50 full fare one way. Usually that was $6 and $3, but while we've got reduced service footprint, link on demand is $3 and $1.50. And then the only other thing that happened is we still offer mobile ticketing. We've offered mobile ticketing for three years now. We used to use a vendor called HopThrough. HopThrough was purchased by a larger mobile ticketing vendor called Passage. And so now your HopThrough app is Passage for anybody that uses our mobile ticketing fares. Then Susan already asked this question and kind of teed it up, but there are more heated shelters, some bus stop improvements. There will be more on deck for 2022. Just some of them may be a little delayed as we get through the transit master plan process and figure out if anything needs to modify as far as our service and routes go, because we don't want to make an infrastructure investment if a certain stop may not be utilized, or if we're going to put some emphasis on some other areas as well. But that is always going to be our goal. It's built. We have a yearly allocation amount that we have built into our planning for this, that is focused on adding more benches, more shelters, more paved connectors, more bike racks, all of those things to make it more conducive and easier to use public transit. One of the things that was listed on the agenda, and we've talked about this with you guys and teased it, and it's great that it's now in process. So BATA got, so last year, end of 2020, beginning of 2021, we did a technology roadmap study with a consultant. We put a 5-year technology roadmap plan together and identified priorities in overhauling BATA's transit technologies from top to bottom. We now have 2 RFPs that are currently in progress right now for basically industry speak is it's an intelligent transportation system. Basically the main technology piece on the buses, and then the routing and planning software that goes around with those pieces are getting a complete overhaul. We're going to be able to add the ability for real-time bus tracking. We're going to continue and expand on our link on demand service. There's going to be improved driver interfaces for the driver connectivity. It's going to allow for future integration and adding more technologies down the road. So we're really excited about this. More industry speak. It's called a computer-aided dispatch or automatic vehicle location software. It's just a fancy way for keeping track of vehicles and making them more efficient. And as Kelly mentioned, that's one of the ways that we're looking to improve those efficiencies, and doing more with less is with technology. We've already seen it with our link on demand pilot that has now become part of our service footprint, being able to provide more rides with less vehicles because of having that artificial intelligence in the background, helping to take some of that computer or that human error out of it, and making things more efficient and more streamlined, and utilizing your resources to the best of their ability. And this technology project will be kind of the footprint and the foundation of adding more features going forward. And so we've kind of identified our top couple technology vendors. We're doing some follow-up meetings the next couple of weeks here. February, we hope to make a decision on who we're going to go with, and you may be seeing some of these technology improvements come here sometime midsummer, and we're really excited to kind of share those, and there'll be a lot of updates and fanfare as those pieces will be coming out. And I know for sure that real-time bus tracking piece, although if you're a link on demand user, it's already there and you're seeing it happen. But for those other folks, it's like, where's my bus? You know, did it already drive by this stop? Where is it? You'll be able to see it in real time where that bus is and what its path is following and everything like that. So we're really excited about those pieces. And then what's on tap for the rest of the year? We already talked about the transit master plan. We talked about technologies. We usually make service adjustments twice a year. A lot of that will depend on COVID and staffing resources. But usually May, springtime is the next kind of round of when we make service improvements and things like that. So any questions on any of that stuff before we kind of get into our last item on our agenda, our kind of round table and checking in with the different folks on the call?
Eric, maybe you could say something to the group about the call I made to you about some of the signs are not updated on the service changes, because that's really hard to keep up on that. And just that people need to put the word out that you need to call the station to find out if in fact the bus is running or what the change is or whatever. Not everybody in the public knows all that.
Sure, good point, Susan. So to Susan's point, so because we've had so many changes to our service footprint, we've tried to keep notifications up at as many of the stops as possible. And because we have limited staff here to be able to get to all of the stops, some of the signage, there's usually a red notification sign at the majority of the stops. Some of the signage is a little outdated. None of our printed brochures are up to speed right now because of the service impacts. So the best spot to check our information is our website, or to give customer service a call if you have any questions about what routes are running and when and timing and all that kind of stuff. Website is number one, and a close second is to give customer service a call and talk with them. Good point. All right, well, I will end this here. Stop sharing. I don't know. Turn it over to Alan.
Thank you, Eric. We just wanted to take a few minutes today to close and get some inputs and get some comments, whether you're a community representative and a writer and interested in anything else about service changes or what we're looking at in the future, or any issues that you've seen in the field, or an agency that has a bus stop outside their facility or their headquarters, or have clients with feedback that you'd like to share with us today. We would love to hear it. So please speak up.
And if there are any ways that our organizations can help each other here, as we're already almost a month into 2022. We've just kind of given you an update of what's going on in our world, but anything that's going on in your world that we can help each other with here as we traverse COVID still and the rest of 2022.
I just want to thank you all for everything you are doing. I think I think you're doing remarkably well considering all the challenges that BATA has faced, as well as every organization I think is present here as well. Worker shortages, COVID, we've all had those challenges. So I think you're doing great. I know working with seniors in Leelanau County, we've always hoped to build that usage of the bus system, and I think consistency has always been a key of people knowing that it's what's available, the timing, and I think that's hard to predict that at this time. So I think keep plugging along and being mindful of what you can and can't do. So thank you.
April, I did our first in-person presentation to Bay Ridge Assisted Living in Traverse City here a week or so ago. It felt so good to be back in front of folks again, and then especially in front of seniors, and they're ready to ride the transit again. They really are. They want to do another ride day, kind of like we used to do with you guys. So I hope that as the weather turns a little bit, that we can do some more of those things again and get people comfortable again, and as they can move around the community a little better.
Yeah, thank you.
April, how is your bus voucher program going? Do you see seniors could increasingly more comfortable with utilizing the bus?
I would say that it's going okay. We still have about the same number of people that are requesting the bus passes or are using the services. This is the time, all of our seniors that are utilizing that program, they will fill out an application and request that. So we're in the midst of reviewing those applications right now. So it'll be interesting to see in comparison to previous years, how many people are requesting that. But that certainly, it's on my list. I need to buy some bus passes from you. So.
Great.
unfortunately, I have to go. I have to go pass out some food. So good to see everyone, and take care. Stay healthy.
Thanks, April.
Yeah. Bye.
Dan, I see your hand up.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to what April said. It is impressive you guys are able to do as much as you're doing with all the challenges with staffing, because I certainly can feel your pain on that. And I also want to say thank you for the help with some of the COVID transportation, working with Safe Harbor and the Goodwill. So thank you.
From the Area Agency on Aging, I know that we have seen definitely, I think, going both ways. Folks still, several of our participants in our programs that we're working with, still somewhat hesitant to get out and get out and about. But then still also on the flip side, there's also a portion that are, feeling kind of the effects of social isolation and needing and wanting to get out, especially just basic things in terms of some of the community activities which have resumed, several of which still have not, but just simple things as far as just grocery shopping as well. So I know that we've been able to utilize some more, I'll say, especially with the bus passes and options for that. So, and even throughout this meeting, I've been thinking of just some additional opportunities in terms of more the social isolation piece that we may be able to kind of put out there more for our participants in our area as well, and really, remind folks that this is an option and a way to get out while still being safe at the same time.
Definitely. Thank you, Amanda.
Hi there. I would like to just echo that for Grand Traverse County. I think you guys are doing amazing with your shortages, and to see everything that you're still accomplishing in spite of the challenges you're facing is impressive. And I have to say that the transition from Coast Bus ending to moving forward with BATA and how responsive you guys have been to individuals who need, a special circumstance and a pickup, it's been remarkable. I just want to give you guys kudos, because I think it's amazing how professional and how well you guys have dealt with all of these challenges that have come your way. So I just want to thank you for that. We don't get complaints, and believe me, we would hear it if people were getting what they needed from BATA. And so that says a lot right there, that, they're getting all the help they need from you guys, and you're doing a great job of explaining the way the different routes work and that kind of thing to our seniors. So thank you.
Thank you. It was a team effort. It really was. We had a lot of conversations and planning and going up to the transition from Coast, and we tried to make it as smooth as possible and continue to make tweaks as needed. But you're good partners for sure. Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the cause?
Just thank you for all that you're doing, and just keep doing what you're doing and what you can.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you, Mandy. Were you bowling on Friday at Lucky Jack's?
Yeah.
I thought I saw you there. I was. It was a half day for TCAP, so we took our kids and we bowled. And I saw you briefly, and then I had one of them grab me and took me in a different direction. But did you have fun on Friday?
Yeah. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Did you bowl a 300?
No.
No. Neither did I.
Just thank you guys for all you're doing. What you can.
Thank you, Mandy.
Yeah.
Susan, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Eric, when you were talking about TCAPs, and I wondered how that has affected BATA in terms of our contracts with the school and what they have to do because of COVID.
So we don't have any formal agreements with TCAPs at all. The main thing that we've found, and this has been COVID-wide as well, is just learning to be flexible. You know, when TCAP switches into virtual mode or shuts down, you know, we'll adjust services as needed to match that. And it's not just TCAPs, it's any of the schools that are around in the community that we provide transportation support for. It's just being flexible and trying to meet their needs and help as much as possible. You know, one of the things personally, just for me, is, you know, being short staffed, you're trying to provide those core essential services, and you want to do more. I always want to do more, you know, like unfortunately we were unable to do ski and ride this year, which we love doing, and we love providing support to the hills and things like that. And, you know, we just have to focus on what our core services are, and when the ability comes back, we'll try to do that kind of stuff again. But just being flexible and working with what you have.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just want to shout out to your customer service because they are being flexible, and as people are trying to navigate their employment and getting to and from work and maximizing the hours they can work, you guys are working with them, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jean-Marie.
And to Susan's point, you know, regarding signage and messaging, I'll certainly follow up with Eric after this meeting about that. But it will be helpful to us if you have any ideas or any suggestions regarding how we communicate. You know, as Eric said, he just presented for the first time in a long time at Bay Ridge, and just personally here, I miss our camaraderie in our in-person meetings that we used to have at Hall Street. It seems like so long ago. And we are accommodating, you know, this virtual meeting process. But that also means that we rely a lot more heavily on communications and marketing. And so if there's anything at all that we can do, please shoot me an email, a call, and let's talk about that. I'd love to help out in any way I can. Anything else today? Thank you, Susan.
I'm wondering if Mike could say a little bit about his interests in being on the committee.
I am a guy that's just crazy about BATA, and I second everybody's opinion that, wow, during this trying times we're having, you've done a fantastic job. I sure miss a ski and ride.
Yeah, you do.
But what do? I'm not skiing this year. I look at the webcams from Crystal. There's still got a good crowd out there. They're not missing me. But I appreciate what all of you do. It's a big thing. And BATA is so valuable to our community. And I think growing in value all the time. It's a great community thing.
And Mike is also one of the founding members of our BATA Buddies program that's temporarily on hiatus right now, but he helped kind of establish it, and working with through the senior center as we kind of coordinate people getting comfortable and familiar with using public transit, especially seniors. So Mike has helped take a couple people out on the bus and walk them through the process and schedule the ride. And like I said, that's currently on hold just because of the COVID flare-up recently, but Mike also was a big part in kind of establishing that program through the senior center. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. That's good to know more about you.
Thank you. And I guess next I'm going to write Chuck Korn from Garfield Township a letter. See if we can't get him going a little bit.
I think a few of us are.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming today. Very much appreciated. Y'all take care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, we'll have a talk about soon.